Okay, so starting off today's show, there is an NFL story that I wanted to get to, and I think this has the potential to be a big story going into this offseason. You guys saw during the Super Bowl, Roger Goodell sitting in his box with the Walter Payton Man of the Year winner, the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, and he looked bored out of his mind. He looked miserable, and maybe I'm just way off here, but I think when you combine that and everything that I saw during the Super Bowl, and the fact that Russell Wilson went on Peter King's show, and he said that he would like a little bit more control of the Seahawks organization, I believe that Russell Wilson is doing whatever he can right now to turn the Seahawks into a winner, because he is seeing Tom Brady and everything that has been going on with Tampa Bay. I know I've been talking about it a lot, but I do think it is so important that when you look at the Buccaneers, this is a franchise that hasn't won in 15 years prior to this season. Tom Brady comes in right away, boom, they are in the Super Bowl. And I think when you look at the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson is starting to realize, like, guys, what else are we bringing in here? I'm getting sacked so much each and every season. Now, I know the Seahawks offensive line has improved over the last couple of years. I like the kid Damian Lewis at right guard. Obviously, Dwayne Brown is very stout at left tackle, but it's not like the Seahawks offensive line is perfect. And here's the other problem. I think Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll's relationship since Russell Wilson has gotten older, has gotten a little bit more distant. And naturally so. It has a lot to do with, I think, the Russell Wilson contract, and it was in that moment when Seattle gave all of the money to Russell Wilson where they still realized that Pete Carroll is really the top dog in that organization. And there's no denying that Pete Carroll does win games. I'm not saying that he's a bad football coach, but when you consider his age and the fact that when you watch the Seahawks last year, right? Let's just face facts. That offense was as predictable as ever. You guys saw DK Metcalf a couple weeks ago on an interview talk about how predictable the Seahawks offense was, how every play was just him going deep and praying that he would be able to make a play to save their bacon, because that happened a lot when I was watching the Seattle Seahawks last year. And I think when you look at Russell Wilson and his career, we all know that he has potential to be very good. He is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen, but at the same time, the Seahawks are kind of similar to the Packers in the sense that they just haven't really been able to get over the hump. Russell Wilson won that one Super Bowl, which was great, but I think we could all agree that was on the backs of the Legion of Boom and that elite defense. They get back the next year, they lose to the New England Patriots, we all know what happened, and unfortunately, if you're a Seahawk fan, your team has not been able to get back to that promised land since. And I think especially over the last 2 or 3 seasons has been when Seattle has really been trying to go for it, because when Russell Wilson first got paid, do you remember the state of the Seahawks? How bad their defense was? And they just were not able to win games. They missed the playoffs in 2017. They were not expected to do well at all coming into 2018, but Pete Carroll did a really nice job turning the team around, but Russell Wilson is not satisfied with just making the playoffs. He wants to win championships, and when you see everything that went on in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, how as time went on, unfortunately, their relationship just got more and more distant. I think that is kind of what is happening here with Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, does that mean if I'm the Seahawks, I'm trading Russell Wilson? Of course not. They're smarter than that. But at the same time, I do think that this could be a wake-up call to the Seahawks organization and say, look, we have to do whatever we can to win. Going back to the offense, luckily they did hire a new offensive coordinator, but I don't think that just getting rid of Brian Schottenheimer, considering the amount of power that Pete Carroll currently holds in that organization, is necessarily going to be enough. Because think about it. After the playoff loss to the Rams, where Russell Wilson threw that pick six and the Seahawks offense was just not really able to get anything going at all, they asked Pete Carroll, what do you want to see from your offense next season in order to improve it? And you know what his answer was? We have to run the ball more. If you're Russell Wilson and that's the answer you're getting, I guess I'm kind of understandable in terms of why he's a little upset. And I think that the Seattle Seahawks need to do a better job of surrounding him with a better offensive line so he's not getting hit each and every game. And the more important thing is they need a Sean McVay type. They need a more modern offensive mind because Pete Carroll, as many games as he's won, I think there could be a little bit of a disconnect between him and Russell Wilson. And seeing Russ at the Super Bowl, I've just never seen him that disengaged. It looked like to me when Russell was out here watching Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady just swinging the ball all over the place, it just seemed to me that Russ was kind of realizing, wow, we are just playing a different sport than these guys. And how are we going to be able to beat these guys next year? I don't want to just go the rest of my career with only one championship. I have to do better. And he doesn't think that his head coach is helping the Seahawks out to the best of their ability with that. And I don't think he's getting traded, but I just think it could be a little wake-up call to the Seahawks. Russell Wilson has done more in his career for this Seattle Seahawks squad than just saying "Go Hawks" after each and every post-game interview that he has. He has taken this organization by storm. I understand that the Legion of Boom was the main reason why the Seattle Seahawks ended up winning that Super Bowl, but let's not forget that Russell Wilson since then has really taken over this organization as the face of the franchise, and he has made football in Seattle a priority. If he is not the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, then I'm not 100% sure if they're a relevant team or not. That's how important he is to the organization. So I think he has deserved more say than just "Go Hawks" after each and every game. Russell Wilson calling out Pete Carroll and calling out the offensive line like he did is not something that he's done before. It's not necessarily in his nature. And the fact that he did this at this time, right before the offseason, I think that means a lot to the situation. And if I'm a Seahawks fan, am I nervous that my team is going to trade Russell Wilson? No. But I am a little nervous that Pete Carroll may just have a little too much power within the organization, and that could cost you going forward. I don't think it was a coincidence at all that that Russell Wilson said that about Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and just the way the offense has been playing. It's not a coincidence that he said that right after the Super Bowl, because he was watching those two guys and probably just thinking to myself, wow, right now my team is nowhere close to where these guys are. And I think if you are a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, that could be something to keep in mind going forward. DK Metcalf wasn't necessarily 100% wrong. I'm being honest with you guys when I say that. DK Metcalf was a guy that was just tearing up the league within the first couple weeks of the season, and it felt to me his route running just got a little bit too predictable, which if you're a Seahawks fan and if you're a Seahawks player, that could be a perception of just wasting Russell Wilson and the rest of his career. He is in the 9th year of his career. It is time for the brother to get going, and he's watching Tom Brady, he's watching Patrick Mahomes and seeing, okay, these guys were able to get to a Super Bowl. These guys were able to win a Super Bowl and win championships, and it's not easy to do that. I'm going to need a little bit more help around me in order to ultimately get the job done. He said, I'm frustrated, I'm getting hit too much. I agree that Russ should be a little bit frustrated. I'm just so fascinated, to be honest, by the timing of all this. Pete Carroll has as much power right now as a guy like Mickey Loomis, as a guy like Bill Belichick, and I'm just not necessarily sure if that is the right direction for the Seattle Seahawks franchise to go in. And if I'm a fan predicting the playoffs next year, if Seattle doesn't do anything this offseason, I'm thinking that as a team that may be one of the more disappointing teams in the league. It's obviously early, and we'll have to see what happens, but I think Pete Carroll right now may just have a little bit too much power in Seattle, and I think ultimately it may cost them their ultimate goals.